Hey, thanks for being here. I am Doc Opp, and it's actually short for Oppenheimer. So I hope you're all coming out to see my movie this weekend. But I hear it could bomb. And actually, I am a real doctor. I'm actually a retired surgeon. And being a surgeon is pretty cool because actually I saved a lot of people's lives, other than my namesake in the movie. And the other thing about being a surgeon, you see a lot of crazy shit that you can't make up. And the thing about retired is now I can talk about it. Because when you're in practice, you got to be careful what you say, but now I can say whatever the fuck I want. Like being a surgeon, you notice that a lot of people like shoving things up their orifices. Why that is, I don't know, but they do. It's like guys who shove light bulbs up their ass. Not the brightest idea. And then one night I get called to the emergency room for a guy with abdominal pain. So I go see him, I say, what's the problem? He says, Doc, I think I ate food poisoning. I said, okay, so I go over and go to examine him. As I'm getting closer to him, I hear this buzzing noise. Zzz, zzz, and I'm going, what the hell is that? And then as I get closer, I see his sort of belly sort of moving a little bit. I said, you sure it's food poisoning? And he says, well, maybe I sat on something. I said, really? So I send him for an x-ray. He comes back with an x-ray. There's an object, looks like this microphone, right in his belly. Yeah, he sat on something. Somebody shoved a dildo up his ass. Now, it's too big to pull it out, so I have to take him to surgery. I open him up, take him to surgery. There it is. There's the dildo, and it's still vibrating. Now, there's a commercial for the Energizer battery. Also, the dildo company is pretty good. Now, it's not only guys that do this. I get called another night to the emergency room for a woman with vaginal bleeding. Now, that's not the most unusual thing. I said, is there anything unusual going on? She says, well, Doc, I think there's something stuck down there. I said, okay, and she wouldn't tell me what it was, so I have to go look for it. So I feel like Indiana Jones going to the Temple of Doom. I put a headlight on, I put a mask on. You gotta have a really good mask because you never know what fumes are coming from that cave. Then I go down with my trusty speculum. It's a little device that opens up. I put it in there, I open it up, and out pops this little glass piece of tubing. And I'm looking at this, I'm saying, I'm not an expert at this, but I think it's a crack pipe. She had a crack pipe in her pussy. Talk about blowing smoke up someone's ass. This is a different way of doing it. Now, it's not always people putting objects in the hole. Sometimes put their objects in other holes. So I get called another night for a guy with a penile injury. So I go and say, hey, what happened? He goes, well, Doc, I stuck my dick in a vacuum cleaner. I think, why would a guy stick, what? So I'm thinking about it, but actually, if you think about it, a vacuum cleaner's got a long metal tube, and it's a strong suction. So you stick it in, sort of like getting a reverse blowjob, right? And I'm thinking, then I think to myself, why did it call it a blowjob? It's not somebody holds it and blows on it like a candle. I don't think that happens. Anyhow, I go back to the guy and said, so what's the problem? So he pulls down his pants, and he's got a little towel wrapped around, a little blood on it. He takes it out, and the tip of his dick looked like shredded beef. Oh, it's terrible. And I said, what did you do? Yeah, he didn't stick it in the suction part of the vacuum. You know when you flip the vacuum over, it's got that little blade that rolls like that? He stuck it in there. His friend said it felt good. You can't make stuff like this up, I'm telling you. So as me, I'm getting a little older. I'm retired, getting a little older. I have two major issues, my memory and my prostate. Now, for those of you who don't know what a prostate is, it controls your penis. Basically, it controls your urination and ejaculation. Very important part of the body. And as you get older, the prostate gets bigger. The bigger the prostate gets, the more you gotta pee. I had to pee every 1 or 2 hours all day long. So the treatment, one of the treatments for a large prostate is actually Cialis, which is sort of like Viagra for ED. So yeah, it helps with decreasing the amount of peeing, but then you feel like you gotta come all the time. And then when I'm having sex in my memory, I can't tell if I'm coming or going. I'm telling you, getting old is not great. Anyhow, you know, when you're younger and you're a guy, and you gotta take a piss, you don't put the toilet, you always leave the toilet seat up, and you pee. But when you get married, it changes things. So I've been married for 38 years. 38 years to the same woman. Yeah, that deserves an applause. And for 38 years, she's been bitching at me to put the toilet seat down. So I finally did it last week. I put it down, and in the middle of the night, I go take a piss. I forgot I put the whole thing down, and it sounds like raindrops on a roof. And I look down and I go, oh my God. Peed all over the toilet seat. I flip it back up reflexively, and then about a half an hour later, I hear like a splash, a lot of expletives, and now we're divorced. That's getting old, it's not that great. So I started thinking about who came up with this idea of a marriage license anyhow? So ladies, it had to be a woman. Because if it was a guy, it would have been a marriage lease with an option to renew every 7 years. And then I was golfing the other day, and I'm thinking, who invented this game of golf? It's a really stupid game. You hit the little, you have a stick, you hit a little ball in a hole, you do it 18 times. And I said, you know, it must have been the same woman who came up with a marriage license, because once she did that, she realized she had to find something to get the guy out of the house. So when you get married in the Jewish religion, and I happen to be Jewish, you get the marriage license, they get a Jewish marriage license called a ketubah. And the marriage license is all in Hebrew. And nobody knows what it says. It's sort of just a tradition, you sign it. But then I started thinking, what does it really say? So I had to translate it. And there is a clause in there that says, after the marriage is consummated, the woman never has to give oral sex again. That's for sure. And that's what happens in Jewish marriages. There's the thing when you're a surgeon that, surgeons have a certain mystique. And when you see surgeons on TV and stuff, and what's one question you want to know about your surgeon? One question that nobody asks. Yes, does a surgeon fart in surgery? And the answer is sometimes. One day I'm in surgery, I'm operating, very difficult thing, I'm concentrating, all of a sudden I can feel it coming on. So I quickly look across to see who's assisting me, all of a sudden, everybody looks, I look across at my assistant and I said, you really shouldn't do that in here. So yes, surgeons fart, but we deflect very well. Now the one last thing I'll leave you with is how sex changes as you get older. So when you're young, you pretty much just fuck everywhere. You fuck in the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, wherever. But as you get older, you pretty much just do it in the bedroom. But when you get really old, you got to change your whole sexual technique. You have to learn to do what's called a hallway fuck. You pass each other in the hallway and you say, fuck you. And I think my time is up. And by the way, I have a movie out on Amazon Prime if you want to see a really funny, low-budget horror comedy movie. It's called Fangs Out. Check it out.